Welcome to the macro tracking video. First thing you need is the actual tracking app. I like to use MyFitnessPal. All right, so once you've got the app, I would just go maintain weight. No matter what you're doing, either you want to lose weight or gain weight if you're going to be tracking your calories. But I think it's good to have like a base and know exactly what you're having. So that's why I say maintain first. Choose how active you are. I'm quite active. And you just go through what your details are and stuff. Okay, so this is in kilojoules. I want calories because I prefer calories. In Australia, it is kilojoules, but calories for some reason, I prefer them. You can use whatever you want, but I'm gonna use calories today. So this will come up. I cancel out of it. Alrighty, so that's actually really good. That is actually pretty good on how many calories I actually burn. So that's quite accurate. Usually they're not that accurate, but for some reason they are today. Okay, so first things first, apart from an actual app that you're using, like MyFitnessPal, the next thing you need, which I prepared earlier, is a digital scale. Now, you weigh in grams for food and you can weigh in meals for liquid. Like I just use grams because it's just easier for me. So you choose whatever, but grams and meals, instead of like cup sizes and one serving size of like 222 grams or whatever it is, ounces you can use. I think if you think Americans, I find it easier just to use grams for everything. So what are we gonna track? Okay, there's a few things that we can track first. We're gonna do things probably with labels first. It's a lot easier. So I'll show you the scanning app. Actually, before I do that, let's just go through actually what you would need to see first. So you've got your dashboard here, which tells you how many calories you're doing. I guess it's got steps and all that kind of stuff. You can track your weight. Okay, this is what you'll see. So I've got 3180, which is great. So if you were to try and change it, so say you like wanted to lose weight, you work out, okay, maybe like 500 to 1,000 calorie deficit, you go to like 2,200 or 2,700, you would click it, just press protein, and then you go to goal, there you go, and then you go up to calories and you can change it. So I could go like 2,500 if I wanted to say lose, enter, and then you work out your percentages. So let's just go back to maintenance first. Let's just work out maintenance 3,200, let's call it that. Now protein, I like to set my protein at like 200 or roughly around where the percentage is. So where are we? 200. I like to have high carbs and about that. Honestly, just go calories and protein. It's so much easier than trying to work out carbs and fats at the moment. So just stick with that. If you're more sports-based, probably more carbohydrates, but if you're like doing keto, obviously more high fat. So up to you with the ratios, but usually what I tell my clients is calories first, then protein, and let the carbs and fat fall where they may, because when they do studies of like, especially when you want to lose fat, as long as your protein is the same and the calories, the same calories, they lose the same amount of weight, whether it's high fat, low carb, or high carb, low fat. So it's whatever you prefer and what food you have. But you get too into the weeds if you're trying to do exact macros. All right, so that's how you set it. How you get your protein amount, 2 easy rule of thumbs is like your target body weight in kilos, you just double it. Or for the Americans out there, it's a gram per pound. So if you weigh 200 pounds, that's like 200 grams of protein. If you weigh around 90, that's 180. So I like to have a little bit more, so then if I do have a low day, it still evens out to quite high. So your height in centimeters also tracks quite well. So say like I'm 191 centimeters, you could have 190 grams of protein. Again, I like to bump it up, especially if you have a lot of weight to lose. If your maintenance calorie seems a little low, you would track for the 2 weeks. And if you're losing too quickly, you would bump it up, or if you're gaining too much, then you would just bump it down. This is just a rough estimate. All right, so you've got your breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks. Don't worry about the exercise here in this little, where it says plus exercise, don't worry about that. Don't add that in if you do. You can add your water in here. So what you want to do is say it's breakfast. Okay, so this is a new feature. You've got 10 scans left. I don't know if that's every month. This is the first time we're doing this, but got 10. So we've got to use them wisely. So grab said food that you want to track. So I've got some Danone YoPro yogurt. And you just press the scan barcode and then you scan and boom. 160 grams per serving, so 1 gram. but we're not always gonna have 160 grams each time. So what do? We go serving size to 1 gram, and then we go quantity. So what we do, we grab a bowl, chuck it on the scale, and then we zero the scale out, and maybe we want, say, 200. All right. Look out for the licks. 203. So what I would do is I would probably go, what's this? Decimal. And I would just round up to 210. It's just easier, especially if you're dieting. If you're bulking, you would probably go the lower number, so like 200 to 210, and then boom, it's added. So you can see the macros. So it's got 19.9 grams of protein, 0.7 grams of fat, and 8.7 grams of carbs. That's great. That's a great meal. Beautiful. Now, we can't just have yogurt. Can we now? So this will go with everything that scans. So if it doesn't scan, you can also look on the back, and what you do, you go into add food, then you go to my foods. You can either go quick add and just put in the amount of calories that you're doing. So you would do this sequence of like, okay, it weighs this much, this is how much it is, and you just do a quick calculations. So we check on the back of the yogurt, say if it didn't scan, and it says, okay, per 100 grams, you've got 57 calories. So what you would do is if you weighed 210 grams, you would round it. So you would go 57 calories. So you would go 57 calories, and you would 2.1 equals 119.7. And then you just put that in. See, it adds up to about 122. So just add on a little bit more. So like probably like 130 or so. It's roughly around the park, but most things scan. If they don't, but that's how you would do it. And then what you would do is you would go to my foods and you go quick, and then you would just go 200, boom. To cancel it, you just swipe to the left and it deletes it, all right? So everything with the barcode, you would do exactly what I just showed you then. So what about things that you can't scan, like an apple? We got an apple right here. So this is the best apples, Granny Smith. So what you do is back to log food, go add food, and then you search up the top. There's a search button. Most foods are in here. It's a pretty good database. So you go Granny Smith apple, boom, first one comes up. And if you see those green ticks, most of the time they're quite reliable. Some, for some reason, just aren't. So you just got to double check. So if you're like that apple and then it had like 500 calories, obviously it's wrong. But for the most part, the green ticks is what you want to look for. So it says one medium apple, right? 97 calories. So it might be 97 calories. It looks like a medium-sized apple, but it might not be. And this is where people might get it a little bit wrong with their tracking, is this like things like this can add up over time. You don't want to be too pedantic about it, but I'm showing you how to track accurately. So what we want to do, again, we go 2 grams, boom. And then we check the serving size. Now, this is obviously, you're not going to eat like the core of it. I usually take the stickers off, and then I also peel this thing off. So, and then this back. I don't know if everyone else is the same, but I definitely do that. All right, give it a wash. We turn our scale back on, put it on. Okay, so we got 146 grams for the apple. So if you're dieting, just put that in. I would even just put 150. Nice and easy, 87 calories, boom, done. You're obviously gonna eat a little bit less than that. So what you would do, if you really want to be pedantic, you would then chop it up, or you would eat it and then just put the core on. But again, how orthorexic do you want to be? So, oh, that sounds good. All right, so I'm just gonna chop it up. There's obviously gonna be a little bit that I'm not gonna use. So I really love these apples. Choppy, choppy, choppy. Make sure your scale's on. I've cut up the apple now, so you would just put the apple in the bowl, which is on the scale, which has been zeroed out. So if it's still on, you just zero out. So you just press either unit, whatever it is. 120 grams. So what you would do if you want to edit it, so you would go into your log food, press your Granny Smith apple, and instead of 150, you would go 120. So, you know, saved yourself a little bit of calories, but again, with stuff like fruit and veg, can add up, but just be mindful that it's only a little bit. All right, so what have we got so far? We got apple for like freshness. We got some yogurt. We don't have enough protein though. So if we go down to nutrition and we go nutrients, boom, 20 grams of protein out of 200. Now, if this is one meal of 3, I'm very short. I usually have 4 meals, but say you're having 3 meals and you want to hit your 200 grams, this needs to be loaded a bit more. More realistic, people might aim for like that 150 to 180. So in 3 meals, you get between like 40 to 60 roughly. And it's okay to have more protein in one sitting if you feel like you need to. I like to get my protein at the front end of the day. I've already had like a full protein smoothie and everything, and this is just like another snack that I'm doing for demonstration. So I need to bump that up. So what else can you put in there? Obviously protein powder. Now this is what I prepared earlier. Again, it's just a scan. It's just you go scan, go to the grams, and boom. I've already got this in there, so teared out 0. I'm gonna go, instead of 2 scoops, it's 60 grams. And that's why people get a bit confused sometimes, is they're like, it's 2 scoops, what's happening? Well, the 2 scoops might be like heap scoops, and not just protein, but like oats or something like that. So always weigh it. So 60 grams. So what we would do is then when we go back to breakfast, go add food, and then this is whey protein. Yes, I don't have it in here to scan. Whey protein, it's chocolate, and it's from Bulk Nutrients. See if it's in here. Yep, whey protein. Okay, see, we've got serving size is 30 grams, which is pretty well right. But again, I'm just gonna go to grams and then go to 60 grams. And then there you go, 44 grams. So now I'm up to 64 grams of protein in this one meal. You beaut, let's go. And that's logged. So you can see this meal so far, it's looking pretty good, I think. Now, I like to have a little bit of syrup. There's some sugar-free from Queen, maple syrup. It's delicious. Am I gonna scan this? Yeah, let's just scan it. It's just easier. And then we scan, boom, 35 meals. Let's see if I can just get 35 meals so I don't have to change it's a lot. 36, annoying. Are you gonna be pedantic over that? Definitely not. But what you can do is you just go back to meals and then you just go 40, it's fine. It's such a low calorie. Okay, that's looking like a pretty good meal. I'm actually pretty hungry right now, but obviously I'm not gonna eat it because I've got some other shit to show you guys. Things like oats. Again, oats, you will need to add water to it to obviously cook it. So when it comes to things with water, make sure that it's in its normal form before cooking. So things like oats, rice, things that you actually have to add water to, you want it dry. So again, you get a bowl, 0 it out, make sure it's on grams. You put it in, what does it weigh? 55, on the dot, you beaut. So that's 55 grams of oats, and then you would just add some water, chuck it in the microwave, or put it in a pan, in a saucepan or something, cook it up, and then what you would do, you'd put it there, you'd put your blueberries on top, again, 0 it out, put it on, done. Next thing, it would be, so like your meats and stuff, you're like, okay, well, I've got this meat that I'm about to cook, what do? You weigh it before you cook it. So things like chicken breast, chicken thigh, salmon, beef mince, turkey, all this kind of stuff that gets cooked. The water content gets pulled out in the cooking process. So you wanna weigh it before it's cooked. Because what happens is, like say I weigh 200 grams uncooked, then once you cook it, a lot of that water is gonna evaporate and you'll be left with like 150 grams. And then when you go onto MyFitnessPal, it might be wrong because you'll put in 150 instead of 200 grams. Okay, so just think of foods that are in their normal state. You wanna weigh them then before adding water, because water can just throw off a lot of stuff. Like if I added water to the oats, that would just like be 3-4 times as much. And then vice versa with cooking water out of like your meats and stuff. So it's just easier cooking it beforehand. So say you go chicken breast, raw, boom, first one, green tick, let's go. Again, and it's 200 grams usually. We have, look at that, 62 grams, add, perfect. And then you cook it however you want. You still got the 200 grams of chicken. So you just get a plate, put a plate on here, zero it out, put the chicken breast on, cool, I'm cooking that. Now, if you cook it for a family as well, you just add everything on there of what you're gonna cook, and then you just divvy it out. And you kind of got to do some mental gymnastics of that's roughly around that. You could cook all your chicken and then put it back on the scale and see how much water's actually gone from the chicken, and then you can work out the ratios from there. But get in the ballpark, you know you're gonna have a little bit more, so it's gotta even out to a certain number. So say, just for easy math, you put a kilo on and you're serving it to 5 people. You could just go 200 grams to everyone, and if you have a little bit more, you would just say 250. And for your kids would be like 150. And it just evens out like that, and meal prep 200. And a side note, when you go out to restaurants and you calculate everything roughly in your head, just bump it up by 20%, because the oils and butters and everything that they put in there to make it taste good. Same with food labels, so that's another thing. You wanna be consistently tracking the same thing, so consistently be all cooked or consistently uncooked, consistently with grams or consistently with ounces or whatever it is, but just, yeah, not cup sizes and stuff. It's too much. So whatever method you're actually doing with your tracking, just stick with that. It's just so much easier instead of trying to find different meals. Like if you like having donuts or whatever, just pick a certain calorie target for that donut and then just have that. So just stick with whatever method you're doing. It might be wrong at first, but you're consistently wrong all the time, which means there's less variables to worry about when you're tracking your food. So we've done scanning your food, we've done weighing your food, we've done foods that have been cooked or not cooked. We've done foods that don't have a barcode. And then obviously when you're going out, you kind of have to guess, or you just don't track it, that's fine. But if you are serious about it, you would just try and guess. So like when you're at home as well, for a good tip, is guess how much a chicken breast weighs, or guess how much meat is gonna go on there either before you cook it. And just go, okay, that's about that much. Or protein powder, or blueberries or something. And then the more you do this, the more you track, the more you go out and you can go, okay, that's roughly, that weighs about that much, and then that weighs about that much. So you're in the ballpark, because then you can add the meal that you have out, and you're not going to be just guessing of, because it could be like 1,000 calories. And you'll be like, oh, I'm pretty good Monday to Friday, and then Saturday I don't really track, but that tracking could be, you know, 1,000, 2,000 calories, which could wipe out your whole deficit throughout the week, and you wonder why you're not losing any weight. So very important to track on the weekends, especially when you go out. Just get something in the app so it keeps you accountable. And I find with myself and also with my clients that when they are tracking, they are a lot more accountable with the food that they're eating. So just tell someone to track their food for a week or two and they eat significantly better. So you saw me putting everything on here, bowl, everything, just adding it on there, right? But say you've got, this is what, cashew spread from Macro. You could go like this, put it on there, it says like 20 grams, and then you've got your spoon that also has some cashew butter on it. So with stuff like this, it is good to just zero it out, put it on there, and then we'll grab my little yogurt from before, zero it out, go to grams. So I would go add food, barcode, there it is, and again, 1 teaspoon is 20 grams. Not too bad. It says 22. Thing is, that's 126 calories. That is a lot. 126 calories. I'm not gonna have that. But that shit adds up. Let's go 10. And then you can lick it and do whatever you want with it. And then you've got your complete meal here. Just change the thing to 10. 63 calories. And you can see the different calories that you have here and the foods that you choose. The yogurt, 122 calories, beautiful. If I just had 20 grams of that, that's more than that whole amount of yogurt. So that's why it's also important to find lower calorie options with higher volume of food that you're gonna get more bang for your buck, because that's quite high calorie, that stuff. So these are the little things that you gotta be aware of, like honey versus the syrup that I just had. If we had a lot more honey, it would be a lot more calories than the low calorie maple syrup. And then it's just a numbers game of just adding up your protein. It all adds it up for you, but then you go, okay, like I've got 1471 remaining with all this food, and then you just keep adding it. So you could either do it while you're doing the meal, or you could do it the night before, which is what I would suggest to most of my clients do, is if you're not used to tracking, because it can be quite time consuming at the start when you don't know what you're doing. And then the more you do it, the easier it's gonna be for you, because you've got all the logged foods already in the database. So say you go to, say lunch, and then you go yogurt, boom, it's straight up there, as you can see, and then you can just click it again. You're like 210 grams every single time, or whatever the amount you do. So it's easier, you just go back into it. People like doing it as they're doing it, or people like doing it just after they've eaten. Find what works best for you, because the one that you can do consistently will get you better results long term. And like I said, once you found out your maintenance, you can drop your calories by 500 to 1,000 or 20 to 30%, maybe more, depending. And then keeping your protein roughly around the same, making sure that you're choosing your whole foods. Hello, Nala. And then if you wanted to bulk, about 10% above your maintenance. And thank you for watching this video. That's how you track calories. Make sure you subscribe. Cheers.